Hello everybody and welcome to my comic review. I am Rainbow Red Panda and today I will be reviewing the comic series BPRD 1947. It is a 5-part series and it was put out in 2009. It is the first prequel to the BPRD vampire series that I reviewed earlier, and I really enjoyed this series. It makes BPRD Vampire, a couple of the questions that I had about the BPRD Vampire were answered in this first prequel installment. So I can't wait to track down the 1948 and read it to see what further it does to answer questions that people might have about BPRD Vampire. Like I mentioned in the video yesterday that I made for that review, you can read it and not be completely confused, but if you have any guesses, like I had some guesses about what was going on with Simon, I was completely wrong. This kind of helps me kind of figure out like where that's going, what's going on with that. The premise to this is World War II just ended. The different countries are clearing out all of the Nazi generals and just all of the people in the Nazi group. They are putting them on trains and sending them to like prisons and things, and one of the trains gets attacked, I guess, by a vampire who just slaughters the entire car of the Nazi police and whatnot. Instead of just being like typical vampire, like doing it for feeding, he does it basically to make a statement. The BPRD group finds out about it. That's not okay with them, so they assemble a group of 4 men who are all ex-military or discharged military, things like that, that are now working for the BPRD. They send them to investigate, find these vampires, and basically take care of it. So Simon Anders was one of the 4 that is in this group. He is the main character so far in the BPRD Vampire, so that's where he ties in. It's his first appearance in the books. So he appears in issue number 1, and he is a main character throughout the rest of the 5 issues. The director of BPRD, Trevor, he assembles the team against the better judgment of his assistant, Margaret, who is very anti him doing this. She thinks that it's horrible, that he should not be sending anybody in because no one's lived to do this kind of stuff. So it's basically like sending them to their death. So they send them out, and they go to these, I think they go to France first, and the 3 of them besides Simon all want to go out and party. Like, you know, they're in this other country, like, let's go party. And Simon's like, no, I'm going to go and do this research. You know, they've paid for us to do this. One of us should at least be working. So he goes to the castle that the vampires supposedly live in, or that they used to live in, that was burned and closed and all of this many years ago. He goes to this castle, he finds someone to take him, so she takes him to the castle at night, because at night it's the best time, you know, of course, vampire story. So they go at night, and there's like a party going on. It's lit up, it's definitely open, it definitely has not been abandoned, and it's very active. He goes in there, they meet it takes place in the 40s, so you have like all of these women in like 40s attire, like big, like poofy hoop dresses and like crazy high hairdos and whatnot. And then you have like there are a lot of men, which is unlike the BPRD Vampire so far. So you have these women that are like all over this human man, and you know right away that it doesn't say that they're vampires, but you know that they're not human just because they're making such a big deal about this human being here, and he's their special guest. And they have this ritual that they have to go to, and that they want to take him to it. So they take him to this place. It looks like they go up and like they fly away to it, but later on it looks like it happens actually below ground, so that's a little confusing, but I guess it's just how you interpret it. So they go to this ritual, and he just kind of, you know, they're like, well, why are you here? And he tells them the story of, you know, the train car that a vampire has, you know, slaughtered these Nazis. And that's not okay with a vampire leader. He's like, you know, we've been hidden for all of these years, and we used to rule these lands, and it is not okay. You know, this guy's like definitely like a scary, like Dracula type, like big big, it kind of, if you've seen the movie Underworld, it kind of reminds me of, like, the lead character from that. Like, he's just so serious and, like, his face is so, like, sunken in things. They might have, like, modeled him after that, I'm not sure. But Simon names Baron, I can't say this name right, but Baron Krong, I think, Kronig, maybe. He is the vampire that is responsible for all of this. So, after much debate, they decide that this Baron needs, who is present at this thing. He gives his, reasons for doing it. These were Nazis, these were bad people. What better way to make a statement than, to get rid of them? But, you can't just do that. Vampires can't just come out whenever they feel like it. They have rules and regulations, and, if you let them get away with that, then, what else are they gonna get away with? Eventually it's gonna be like a free-for-all, and you can do whatever you want, so you can't break the rules. So they punish him. It looks like they end up, like, killing him. They, like, slit his throat, which is weird. Like, these vampires have blood, and you don't normally think of vampires, like, having blood running through them, but this one definitely did. So that could be a little odd thing that happens, but they kill him. They go back, and Simon has made friends with these two sisters, which are the same sisters that appear in the beginning pages of the BPRD vampire series. And they have this thing where they always, like, I don't know if they actually end up having sex with the human, but it looks like that's what's gonna happen. And in the process, they bite him and do all this stuff. And normally they end up killing their host, their human host. But Simon isn't dead throughout it. They go looking for him, the people of BPRD, and they end up finding him in the process of them doing this. He has, like, bite marks all over him and whatnot. And as soon as they open the door and the light goes in, the vampire sisters, they, like, shrivel up and turn into these ugly creatures that have to be killed with wooden stakes and whatnot. Typical vampire stereotype. And Simon goes back. He's in, like, this coma. He has, wounds all over him. And apparently these bites, whenever they're bitten by a vampire, it puts part of the vampire's, like, soul into them. So these sisters literally have, like, a hold of him. Like, they control what he does, like, how he thinks. Like, they're in his head. And it's basically like he's always going to be with them. Like, whether he's dead or not, like, they are in his life. So they bring in this old priest, which I'm guessing if you read the rest of the Hellboy series prior to this character is probably in it, because it makes it sound like he has a recurring role in the earlier workings of this series, but I'm not for sure because I haven't read them. He is this really old, small, tiny, like, I want to say he's black, but I'm not quite sure. He is definitely, like, something. He's really dark Indian or an African American, I'm not really sure, but his name is Mr. Ota Benga, and he's so, like, random. He goes and he has, like, this little seance where he, like, denounces all of the demons in him, and he goes on this, like, long thing, and while he's doing it, it shows him, like, basically going into Simon's soul and fighting these vampires and trying to drive them out of him, and he's not completely successful, but he does manage to lock them into a part of his memory and, like, literally it shows him, like, shutting a door and locking these two vampires into, like, a part of his subconscious, and he shouldn't be able to, access them anymore. They shouldn't be around, and he can't get rid of them for some reason. Their spirit is too strong in him, but he is able to basically repress them in Simon's memory. So after that, the priest basically says, I would say that you guys should definitely, like, kill this man, but obviously you're probably not going to. So just keep an eye on him. I can't tell you how long this door in his memory is going to stay shut. It could be years, it could be months, he could wake up tomorrow, something like that. So it kind of ends with that. The vampires are in this door, locked away. Simon comes back, out of it. And it seems like he's going to be okay, but obviously since the series is still going, something's going to happen. So now, knowing all of this, the stuff that happens in BPRD Vampire, I believe, is he's starting to remember these memories. It's not quite the same. He's not remembering what's happened to him, but he is remembering how the two sisters came to be, how they were turned into vampires and things like that. So I'm guessing throughout the BPRD vampire series, and if they continue it to do something else afterwards, it's going to be about him remembering these memories that he's repressed, and also remembering what the vampires want him to know about their history and things like that. In BPRD 1948, which I have not read yet, I am guessing there are a couple characters that are in the 1947 that are not in the 1940, or that are not in the BPRD vampire. So I'm guessing that in 48 there's some sort of battle between, whether it be humans and vampires or something like that, where a couple of characters get lost along the way. One of them is the assistant, Margaret. She has like a very strange role in 1947. She's just like his assistant secretary type person, but she also kind of has an opinion on what he does. Like, he picks these 4 ex-military people, and she's very against that. She's like, look at these people. Like, they've been through enough. Like, Simon was stranded on like a rowboat for 24 days alone in like the middle of the ocean. Like, she doesn't understand why he would pick him. Like, he's been on a boat. He's been through enough. He doesn't need to go in and do this vampire mission. Well, he does. And she gets very angry. At one point, all 4 of the members of this team are reported to be dead in France because of the vampire attack. And she gets very angry about that. She kind of almost threatens him. She's like, I'm worried for your sake. Like, maybe she has some sort of thing with her that I don't think she's a vampire, but maybe she's some other sort of thing that she's going to, cast some sort of spell on him, or, something like that. I don't really know. She seems like a nice person, but I just feel like there's something that she's hiding or something like that is gonna come out, if it hasn't, in a past thing that I haven't read. Also, Trevor has this little girl who I'm guessing that she's like a ghost type person who follows him around. She talks to him in his office whenever he's alone, and he makes a big deal about the fact that she is not supposed to be there, but she is. Her name is Vera, and she literally is just like this cute little girl that I'm guessing she's like a spirit, but if she's not, she's some sort of thing that whenever someone walks in, like, she can disappear like that. Like, she's gone whenever she is not supposed to be seen, because if she was seen, he would get in trouble. So I'm guessing that she is some sort of spirit that he is not supposed to have, because obviously if your director is seeing ghosts and things, that looks bad for the BPRD, who is kind of, ridding the world of that. So he's always very careful of her, but she, gives him advice and tells him things that she thinks that should be going on, and kind of tells him, I think you're doing this wrong, but I know you're going to do whatever you're going to do anyway. So she's not in it either. So either he gets rid of her, or she just hasn't appeared yet. I'm not really sure. But it seems like she could be a major character and one of something to do with this series. Hellboy also plays a little role. He kind of comes in at like the wrong times. Like, they'll be having a serious conversation and he'll come in and be like, hey, you want to play catch? And that's how it actually ends. The director actually plays catch with Hellboy at the very end. He finally gives him what he wants. So, overall, I really like this series. It does answer a lot of questions that I had about BPRD Vampire. And it seems to be, it's well written, it's well illustrated. It has the same illustrating style as BPRD Vampire. And it fits. Like, the style definitely fits the writing, and the writing is really good. It's solid. It, lets you know what you need to know, and it also, along with the drawings, like, if it's not answered in the writing, it's going to be answered in the illustrations. And I think that's important. That way you don't have a lot of questions. Like, I didn't read this and afterwards have really any questions left. Besides, a couple of the characters, which, I could find out online, or if I read the entire series, like, from Hellboy #1, I could probably easily find that out. So I would definitely recommend reading it. That is all I really have for today, so I will see you guys next time with my next comic review. I am Rainbow Red Panda, and goodbye!